we're not alone. We feel like we're alone sometimes, but even if you're a solo business owner, sole proprietor type, there are other people. So that's a really good point. That there is someone else thinking like you, and even if they're not completely thinking like you, they'll have some great ideas.
What does it mean to plant your flag? It means you're not afraid.
It means you're passionate about what you do.
It means you're here to serve others.
In business, in life.
In good and bad.
You aren't afraid to fly your colors proudly because you know
you serve a greater purpose. This is the Plant Your Flag podcast with Mike Bean
and Jeremy Mountain.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Plant Your Flag. I'm Mike Bean from Bean Media Productions, and we're happy you're joining us today. Wanted to just start off with, if you haven't already, subscribed, hit that little bell on YouTube. Please do, because we do come out with these episodes every 3 weeks. But today, we're very happy to be joined by Dr. Stephanie West. I've known her for a while, and we've been wanting to get her on here. She has got a lot that she's accomplished in her career. Most recently, she has a book coming out. By the time this airs, this book will be available for purchase. It is S.O.A.P for Success. She's also a business consultant. Previously, she was a hospital administrator of Blue Pearl Specialty and Emergency Pet Hospital. She was the CEO and executive director of the Greater Buffalo Veterinary Emergency Clinic. And she also was the director of hospital operations at Iowa State University College of Veterinary Medicine. The list goes on. So Dr. Stephanie West, I was told after you retired, I can call you Stephanie.
Yes.
All these, I'm still getting used to it. So Stephanie, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I figured I'd be Dr. Stephanie in this incarnation. I was Dr. West as a veterinarian, and it just felt formal for what I'm doing with my life now.
Sure. No, it's like I said, it'll be something I get used to over time. But we wanted to start off with, as we're going to dive into, I'm sure, to a lot of these and how these different roles led you to what you're doing today as a flag planter. So what was it that was, and when do you maybe say, out of all the things that you have done and are doing, when was it that you feel you had planted your flag, and what was it that took you to that realization that, you know what, I'm doing this?
Well, it's interesting. It depends on what you mean. If you mean my current career, which is being a consultant, that's sort of the culmination of a lot that I've done over time. I always had this vision that I could make a difference, and I have a personal mission to empower people in things that they love, and that was, sometimes it was clients taking care of their animals that they love dearly when I was being a veterinarian. I taught veterinary technicians, which are like the veterinary nurses, and having them learn about the job they really, really desperately wanted to be in was a blast. And then I saw I seemed to have some talents in business, and I realized that the veterinary profession has really people that just love doing what they're doing, and they get stuck sometimes, stymied, because operational things don't work. And I seem to have a skill at getting those to work. And I thought if I could create a business environment where they could do the things they love to do, it would make a difference for the employees, the doctors, but the pet owners and anybody else.
And I think like that idea of having a purpose, a greater mission. I think a lot of people we've spoken to share that kind of sentiment and loving what you're doing. And in your book, you really start right out with talking about you got into business for one of these two things. And it seems like the passion side of it, and then also the other things aligning with your personality and drive, are what led you to having some roles and in a management position and kind of almost an owner from probably earlier in your career. Did you want to talk a little bit about maybe that first time that was in your book, I believe chapter 3, of someone giving you that responsibility and how that felt?
Oh, sure. At the time, I was employed as a veterinarian by somebody who owned a very excellent practice and a second practice, a satellite practice. And I was, at the time, on my own with a child, didn't feel like I had a whole lot of money. A lot of it was going towards daycare, things like that. And, you know, I'm getting by. I'm doing okay. But she offered me the chance to turn around the second clinic that was not doing so well. It was actually in potential danger of not making it, which unfortunately a lot of businesses, I mentioned in my book, I did statistics, like a stunning number of businesses don't go beyond the first year, let alone the first 5 years. But I was offered the chance to see if I could turn it around and get a small, you know, a little cut of the profit, and that was all it took. I was like, I'll do it.
Right. Yeah.
We can eat more than macaroni and cheese.
We can get the name brand. Someday we'll be able to add some hot dogs in there or something.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then there's just looking at that, and it seemed like you probably learned quite a bit through that, because it seemed like it was success, and then you were able to repeat that same kind of process throughout your career. How often did you talk about S.O.A.P, which I've never heard of that before? What is it? Subjective, objective analysis, and
Plan. Pretty close.
Plan.
It's subjective, objective assessment, but that could be analysis and plan.
Right.
So the idea, so what that is, it's an acronym for a way of thinking in the medical profession. Actually, a lot of human-related professions use it for keeping records that are logical and don't miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
So subjective would be the things that are hard to quantify, like in the veterinary medicine, how does that animal feel?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he looking depressed or perky and tail wagging, or she's meowing at you or whatever? And then objective would be information that you can see or prove or read, like maybe financial data, or you could say, oh, I have 3 cars in the, that data.
Mm-hmm.
And then assessment is looking at any problems you found in those areas and seeing if you could come up with some patterns that might fix it, and then make a plan to do so. So in veterinary medicine, I see an animal, I see how they're feeling, I get maybe some test results or an examination, I assess what that animal's doing, what it might need, then I make a plan for either diagnosis or treatment.
And I thought that it was very interesting beyond the fact that came from the medical world, but specifically your background in veterinary medicine, where the patients can't speak to you. And similar to a business really can't speak to you. It can't say what hurts. And I have dog, this, I've got several dogs. Up until recently I had a cat. Buster, he's went over the Rainbow Bridge, but he was a good little dude. But we still have 3 dogs, and it's one of those things that goes around the house on a regular basis. My wife and I will say, I wish they could just, and we joke about this, I wish they could just say one sentence a day, like, something like that. And I will joke with her and say, but the thing is that she sometimes will just speak what's on her mind and forgets about that filter thing. And I said, well, knowing you'd probably ask it the wrong question. Like, first thing it would be like, how's your day going so far? And then it's ruined for the rest of the day. But anyhow, they can't speak with you, and neither can the business. And I found that comparison to be just spot on. It was a great subject matter and a great way of approaching it and looking at a business. So what other things would you say you really align with what you learned in S.O.A.P class, and like how that applies towards business, and how have you been able to use it to succeed?
Well, I didn't realize consciously that I was doing it at first.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, this is how I think as a veterinarian when I'm analyzing a case. Yeah. And so when I was given a business to analyze and something was kind of going off kilter, well, I just automatically started using the same logical thought pattern, because it's logic. Mm-hmm. It's logic, and it's complete. Because a lot of times, if you're just grabbing the latest problem that's in front of you, you kind of miss other things.
Right.
Where this has to do with a very careful, sort of systematic view of what's going on in my business right now, what's going on with my employees, what's going on with me, the owner or the manager. What's going on with my financial data, what's going on with my facilities, and then assessing that, coming up with a plan. And I like to simplify things, because what I find is well, you're a business owner. I'm sure that
So I've been told.
stuff comes at you, and you have this huge list
Right.
that starts building up of all the things that have to be done right away, the things that should be done right away, the things that should be done soon, the things that might be really good to do someday, and pretty soon you're kind of overwhelmed with that. So what this system does is it organizes all that really clearly and gets it to the point where you can come up with a plan that the quickest way to get a big difference fast.
Right.
Get control over your life
Right.
and your business.
And yeah, and I like that too, is laying everything out and then looking at some of the things, if they might be small and they can affect multiple things. I think that's really, really smart. Work smarter, not harder. I like that approach. And that's something I think I subconsciously try to do. But sometimes the daunting stuff that are bigger, they get pushed aside. So you have to still make sure that the big things are addressed. Is that, yeah?
Well,
something
yes.
you've
And
worked with?
part of what I wrote about the book, I said it's a simple method to, manage your business, and get back to your mission, revitalize your mission. Because to me, the people I'm talking to aren't the people that have an MBA and know how to run a business. Those people, that's great, that's awesome. But a lot of people have a business, maybe like you started yours.
Yeah.
You have an idea, you have a dream, you have a thought, and you want to get it out there. And you do so, and then suddenly you realize, wait a minute, there's taxes and employees and a bank, and oh my goodness. And it can get overwhelming, and it starts to pull you away from the thing that made you love your business to begin with. So that's actually my goal. I mentioned my whole personal mission.
Yeah.
If I can empower people in their businesses to go back to loving their business and doing what they want with their mission, that's actually why I wrote the book.
That's great. And with that, with you in that seat, how much of the getting worn out from the things that weren't directly involved with what you love, how much did that have to do with you, as I used air quotes earlier, retiring to go into business as a consultant and write this book? Were you starting to kind of get worn out from the day-to-day things that weren't directly aligning with what you love doing?
I will say COVID was painful. I was running a very large a university with multiple hospitals with all kinds of essential staff during COVID. If my hair wasn't white before, it would have been. And that was draining.
Yeah.
But I still love what I do. And a contract had completed, and I was at the point where I could re-up for contracts. And there were some, people talking to me and potential offers. And I really had a big decision to make it earlier in this year, which was, do I go back to that path that I know? There's some fun being in charge of a large organization and really feeling like I could make a difference for a lot of people.
Right.
But then I thought, I had been writing this book anyway. This is my sort of like back burner, been doing that. And the book is for more than just veterinarians. I mean, I started writing it for veterinarians, and I realized there's a lot of people like you that have businesses, that have missions, that can kind of get stuck and might find this useful. And then I thought, well, I could actually maybe branch out and give some of this information to a larger audience and make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, right away, I identified with it, first couple of pages. So I agree. And like you mentioned, and I said before, it's so many folks that we talk to on this podcast, and then that I run into just through being a business owner and needing to wave the flag after it's planted. So many people do start the business because it's just they want to do something based on their skill or their passion. And I think it is going to be a great resource for so many different people. What was it like, writing a book and going through the whole process?
Well, I was still working full time, and when you're at the high level, like what you're doing, you're kind of on call all the time. Yeah. So in between the texts and the emails and the phone calls and being in the office and things, but I'd have a few hours on a Saturday, let's say, and I'd write another chapter. But the back of my brain would be pondering it without me thinking about it. So when I would sit down, I would already have done the thinking, sort of like with my subconscious.
Right.
And I'd sit down, and luckily for me, I can type, and it's not hard to put words down. I do that. And that was fun. And then I found a good publisher that was actually willing to publish it.
Right. Yeah.
And gave me support in how to do this, because I hadn't ever done this before. And they made it pretty seamless. I have another publishing group that does audiobooks, and so I have an audiobook coming out at the same time where I read my book, so that it's so my audiobook. And these are new skills. And I probably should mention, maybe this is what you're talking about. I used to try and have a new skill, like basically I called every semester, like I was in school mindset for so much of my life, because I either was teaching or in school. So I think of life as kind of like semesters. There's fall semester, spring semester, and summer in my life.
Yeah, right.
You may think I'm too old for that, but I'm not. So I try to have some new technology, some new skill every semester that I learn. So I've been learning some things around books.
That's great. And do you feel like, as far as like what would set you apart as, once again, making more sense to those who are listening or watching, is it that hunger for education and always learning and adding things to your plate? You think that is what maybe would set you apart as somebody who has had success in multiple different organizations, and especially not small ones by that stretch in the back. So like it could be daunting to some other people like looking at your resume. Is that like hunger for further education? I think so. Something that's very important, and I think sets you apart.
Well, you're going to make me embarrassed here, but let me think about that. So I don't know. I guess I've always liked lots of things. So I had the feeling as a kid that you're being directed to that thing that you're going to be when you grow up. And it was kind of like a narrow thing, and I could never narrow my focus. I actually remember after my sitting down with the phone book once and reading all the headings. This is back in the days when they were paper phone books.
Sure.
To see which one struck me as which is the one I was going to do, because there was so much out there. What I didn't realize then was the broad interests actually are useful. Higher up in like managing a business, it turns out that all those strange things that I liked, so just in veterinary medicine alone, I like what's called large animals, which is the farm animals. I like pets. I like managing it in operations. I like teaching about it. I enjoy working with the doctors. I enjoy working with the technicians. I've been a receptionist in my ancient history. I've been a veterinary assistant in my ancient history. All those things put together, it either could lead a very sloppy career, or, hey, wait, I know a lot about a large amount of veterinary medicine, which is why when the veterinary teaching hospitals wanted me, I actually had some awareness of all the different things. But it came, I will tell you, as a child, my mother once told me, and this was not a compliment, she said, "You're a jack of all trades and a master of none." And I took that to heart, and I was really unhappy with it. And then I thought, but it's kind of true. I just like so much. I like linguistics. I like writing. I like speaking. I find things interesting. And maybe part of your question is what drew me. I don't want to be bored.
Yeah.
So I'm always reading something or learning something. So yeah.
Well, first off, I think you can add mind reader to that list. So I don't know, Jake, you have fun. Because I was going to say, there are people out there who will say negative things like the jack of all trades, expert or nothing kind of thing. And I have grappled with that myself because I'm maybe not the best person at every role in this company, but at least in a pinch, I can do it. And some of it is because of rust. I mean, I'm not the best, and some of it's because some of the people have surpassed me with technology, and just because they do it every day, where I'm more running the business. But I also have found that, especially in the early years of bringing on employees, it was challenging to delegate. Because of that kind of mindset, because obviously you've had to delegate based on your roles, did you find it difficult to delegate?
Oh, absolutely. There's some mention about how I had to grow. Some of the learning that I mentioned in my book, because I use my story, as you kind of know, to go through.
Yeah.
I started out with, okay, there's a little thing with, maybe 10 employees. I end up with something with many hundreds of employees, and there's a delegation, but you have to learn. And in fact, one of the key skills that I think managers or owners need to develop is don't do it all yourself. Know how to do it, but don't do it all yourself. And that's when I'm doing consulting. Sometimes I find my hardest consultation discussion is with the business owner who knows that they can do X, Y, or Z better or faster or more accurately, but at the same time they're miserable because they have no life and they're doing too much. It's like, you know what? If you can have, let's train up a secondary manager. Let's focus on, maybe you'll have to review it, but maybe you can start letting it go. And there's a sort of a juxtaposition of loss of control, which can be scary when it's your business, especially if you started by yourself.
Right.
And then you start to give other people some control. Sure. And realizing it's now, you're beginning to give it away now. It's bigger than you. And that's actually a good thing. Right.
And do you find, because as a consultant, I would imagine advice is something you're getting paid for. Do you find that's one of the more common pieces of advice, or is there something bigger that you end up having to relay as in the form of advice to the people you work with?
A surprising amount of my advice is, a lot of the advice looks like is operational streamlining and doing the action plans and so on. But a lot of what the conversations with the owner are really have to do with the owner themselves. Sometimes it's maybe having the owner see that there is leadership potential in some other people that they have, or it might be seeing that they are getting themselves stuck and losing their love of the mission. And those are the subtle parts of the consultation.
And how do you go about, I would imagine you probably go through the S.O.A.P process, right,
yes.
with them, and are they aware of that? That's how they will be soon enough.
They will be. Well, actually, my consultation business has currently been with just veterinary practices. So when I present my findings in a S.O.A.P format, they actually understand it. So it's like a shortcut. They understand that language. So when I'm going to talk about employees or the culture, that's going to go under subjective. If we're going to talk about the how they're controlling inventory or their pricing or something like that, that's going to be under objective. And then we assess it and make plans. And the plans, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but I am going to show different potential options and how you could be looking at this and directions you could go. Because part of what I do is some strategic planning, because it's also, where do you want to go?
Right. Where you today, tomorrow. Now, with being in that position of leadership and also being the kind of the voice of reason for different businesses and people, even the expert needs a sounding board. When you kind of get stuck or you want to kind of talk something through, who do you turn to?
I have so many. My book, I was really honored. Some really top-notch people have endorsed my book. Very, industry leaders type people that I can talk to.
Congratulations.
I have family, friends. I have two very close friends that are veterinarians that I actually acknowledge them in the book. For several years, we've had this silly little, we call it the PVW, which is Powerful Veterinary Women. And it's our secret term for going out, possibly having a drink while we talk about whatever the issue is. And we'll be talking about employees or all the business stuff, but from a supportive, just helping each other out casually.
It's nice to have a group, people who have similar interests, similar goals. This group that I belong to, I'm on the board of and been president for quite a while, is Business Helping Business and of Western New York, and that's how it started. It was a couple people in sales, and they would meet up over a couple beers, and then a couple decades later, it turned into, a real organization. And I find it's great because we're talking to people as people, and we're not just thinking about the business connections that we have between each other. We're wanting to know each other, and I think like those relationships can be very beneficial, whether it's because you have questions or you want to have that good feeling of when someone says, "Oh, do you know somebody who does this?" You say, I don't really know them. I know them well, and I can trust them, and I think that's important. And I would imagine in your in your career, you probably have to refer people. And, you have anything like that?
Well, you
too?
definitely refer people, but also what you were mentioning, I do a fair amount of volunteer work. I'm a strong believer in organizations that are like team-based, like a professional organization. I've been volunteering for years and years on some of our local veterinary and regional veterinary societies. Next week, I'm going for a week to volunteer at our national organization for the American Veterinary Medical Association, just because those organizations help us, and when I can, I try and help give back as well, because we're not alone. We feel like we're alone sometimes, but even if you're a solo business owner, sole proprietor type, there are other people. So that's a really good point. That there is someone else thinking like you, and even if they're not completely thinking like you, they'll have some great ideas.
Yeah, a lot of times that's a good thing. You mentioned juxtaposition before, as I trip over my words. To have a little bit of that pushback, or somebody looking at it from a very different lens, I think can be a helpful thing. When we kind of go back through your career, especially dealing with animals, dealing with students, in video, we always talk about children. I know the students you were teaching are a little older, but
Definitely
children and
college.
Animals on set are the most challenging. So I think students, can kind of maybe fit that category. You have to have something that was very remarkable or rememberable, whether it be a crazy, funny story, off the wall story, anything that you could think of that really stands out as, the go-to. Wait till you hear this kind of thing.
Since students, well, the one that makes me laugh the most was I was teaching a class in how to do imaging, like X-ray machines and so on. And there are ways that you have to set the machine up or things can go wrong with it. So one of my test questions was, something to the nature of, what settings would, not work for this X-ray machine or make this X-ray machine not work. And somebody who apparently didn't know the answer just said, hit it with a baseball bat. I'll never forget that one. It's like, well.
Well, it'll do something. It'll fix it. Maybe the insurance claim would then,
And then you can't talk to a veterinarian and not have stories about animals. So, for me, the unusual species are fun. When I was at the vet school, it had a zoo component. So I've watched an okapi get its hooves trimmed and touched a baby rhinoceros and helped feed a giraffe. And those kind of stories. But every veterinarian has those stories about even just the regular. I'm not going to share about necessarily people's individual pets and things like that. But there is so much. My life is really rich.
That's great. And it really all starts from that whole jack of all trades being interested in all sorts of things. And I relate to that too. When somebody says something about being bored, I'm like, how? There's so much out there, so much to do. And there's so much that I would love to continue to just keep chatting about. But we try to keep these episodes to about a half hour. So before we wrap up, I wanted to be able to let the audience know how they can get in touch with you. And also how they can get the book. But before we do that, is there any other kind of advice or words of wisdom that you'd like to share based on some of your experiences?
I guess I would tell people that you can probably do what you want to do. It might take some sacrifices. There's somebody out there who's done it, someone who might be able to give you advice. You might be able to read it. You might be able to, check it on a video somewhere. Don't give up. I was told that I would never get into veterinary school when I was an undergraduate, that at the time women were not part of veterinary medicine very, very much. There was no way that you're going to get into veterinary school, and I didn't listen.
Well, no surprise. Good,
So,
I like it.
So sometimes it's, thank you very much for your advice, but I'm going to continue with the direction that I want. At the same time, you do have to weigh up and not necessarily be stupid. For instance, I'm not going to be a ballerina. I mean, just because physically I'm not going to be able to be a ballerina.
Give it a shot.
But
Just see how the book sales do.
But so there could be something that, okay, no, you're really, really going in the wrong direction. But I find that rare. Most
Right.
times if people have some idea, there's a way, maybe it won't be exactly the way you think of it, but there's some aspect. I have somebody that I've worked with for a long time. She loved what veterinary medicine does. Her heart is too soft to do it. So she took her bookkeeping skills and she is a bookkeeper for veterinary practice.
That's great.
So that's what I'm saying. It might not look exactly the way you
Yeah.
think it's going to look, but you can do it. That's what I'd
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice because I can relate. My wife thought she wanted to go into that line of work, and she went and interned, and they were doing something with a tumor, burning it, some kind of cauterization, and she passed out. But now she's very heavily involved in a dog rescue. So she's a teacher, keeps her away from that side of things. And now she gets to help find dogs home. So
There's a way.
yeah, right. And just because what you initially thought you were going to do, I mean, there's coaches in the NFL and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to play just to be there. So I do like that. So the other thing I wanted to do is, once again, give you some time. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you? We'll start with for your consulting services first.
Actually, the best thing if somebody's interested is to look at my website. It's drstephanieFwest.com. And that talks about the consulting, the speaking, my book. So that's the best way.
And once again, the book is coming out September 30th,
September
correct?
30th, available anywhere books are sold.
That's excellent. And you read it too?
I have an audiobook and an e-book and a print book.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great. It went by so fast.
I know. We got beeped out.
Right, yeah. The clock is yelling at us. No, there's another boss. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Plant Your Flag. We will be back in another 3 weeks. So we encourage you to, once again, like, subscribe, hit that little bell. So if 3 weeks zips by and you don't realize it, you'll get a reminder. Thanks again. Have a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you. Such an animal lover. She loves animals. We're beeping, so.
Yeah, it's when people are like, "You've got a great radio or voice for radio," and my response is always the same: as long as you don't say I've got a face for radio, that I'll take it as a compliment. Yeah. I was wondering as I saw it going down, I'm like, I wonder if that is gonna have a chime of sorts, or if it's just gonna stop.